Following the release of the well-intentioned but ultimately disappointing Mario movie, all gamers wondered how Nintendo would capitalize on that movie's success on the gaming front. The answer? Inundate the Switch with a bajillion Mario games releasing in the next year. The first and most important post-Mario movie game is here, the Super Mario Bros. Wonder game for the Nintendo Switch family of systems. TM. In Mario's first 2D adventure since 2012's New Super Mario Bros. U, Nintendo have rethought every convention of 2D Mario, injecting an overwhelming and overstimulating amount of charm, creativity, personality, and pure joy into it, the likes of which 2D Mario hasn't seen since Yoshi's Island back on the Super Nintendo in the 1990s. As a lifelong fan of Mario whose first console game was Super Mario World on the SNES way back in childhood, and has bought almost every Mario game at launch in adulthood, my anticipation for Wonder was astronomically high, with the marketing triumphantly showcasing that this will not be yet another new Super Mario Bros. Style adventure. All eyes were on this game. Would it truly rethink the potential of 2D Mario, break Mario free from corporately mandated bland aesthetics, and deliver a truly crowd-pleasing platforming experience to satisfy both new and old fans? The answer to those questions may surprise you, and in this comprehensive review I'll go over all aspects of the game, and by the end you'll know how it stacks up alongside Mario's long legacy, and if it's worth picking up. In the words of the iconic plumber himself, let's-a go. I know that gag doesn't really make sense as this is Bowser's hat, but whatever, don't overthink it, move past it. While Mario and friends are on a visit to the neighbouring Flower Kingdom, Bowser soon shows up to ruin the fun by stealing the kingdom's Wonder Flower, causing him to fuse with a castle, becoming the wonder-powered Castle Bowser. It's up to Mario and friends, with the help of Caterpillar Prince Florian, to unleash the power of Wonder Flowers, travel across the kingdom to collect Wonder Seeds, and put a stop to Castle Bowser before he can unleash his world-ending Big Wonder. It's a pretty standard setup for a Mario game, but cinematically it's executed incredibly well. The opening scene uses Bowser to great effect, with his castle form actually being quite imposing, menacing, and likely scary enough to traumatize any kids playing. I can't stress how satisfying it is to see Bowser as a threatening presence again, especially after his quite pathetic portrayals in Mario Odyssey and the Mario movie. Wonder really makes the most of this iconic character, and it continues Bowser's redemption arc as a powerful nemesis that was started a few years ago in the excellent Bowser's Fury. And on the character front, 2D veterans Mario, Luigi, Peach, Yellow and Blue Toads, and Toadetta here, joined for the first time by my favorite character, Princess Daisy. The addition of Daisy and this wild new version of Bowser makes it clear from the beginning that this is a game that is going to break and challenge the rules of Mario. Princess Daisy being promoted from spin-off character to main character is one of the best moves Nintendo can make, and coupled with an actually good Bowser, it means we may see Nintendo better utilizing their stable of characters in future Mario installments, and paves the way for exciting things to come. And rounding out the cast are the Yoshis and Nabbit, who are unable to use power-ups or take damage, making them the go-to choice for beginners or small kids. Essentially an easy mode. While Nabbit is one of my favorite newer Mario characters and I'm happy to see it here, it's a little bit disappointing it or Yoshi can't use power-ups, but whatever. The best way to play this game is to alternate between different characters, as it celebrates these iconic characters better than ever before. The way they are animated is more expressive too, like characters looking around when they exit pipes, strain their little faces when they push objects, and so on. The stylized aesthetic works well, injecting fresh new life into the series. It's amazing that in a 30-plus-year-old IP, more and more character work can be done to enhance them with each iteration. And then there's the enemies. You cannot understand how overjoyed I was to see new Mario enemies. We're eating well on the Switch generation of Mario, with Odyssey introducing a host of new enemies and Wonder introducing even more. New enemies showcase an incredible amount of creativity, visually unique but still able to sit confidently alongside returning iconic enemies like Piranha Plants, Bullet Bills, and Koopa Troopers, with the latter's newly animated eyes now looking up at Mario before its inevitable demise by stomping. There's also variants of classic enemies, like a missile version of Bullet Bill called Missile Meg, and a new flying type of Mecha Koopa. I hope these aren't just one-off enemies and become staple baddies in Mario. Discovering a new enemy is always surprising and exciting, and I couldn't help but smile or laugh at the creativity and cuteness on display. So, considering the cast of characters and enemies, we can see a consistent theme, surprise and creativity. And this certainly extends to the most important part of any Mario game, gameplay. I'll get into that now. Platforming physics are tight and responsive, an industry gold standard as we've come to expect from Mario. Adding a new twist on Mario is the badge system. Badges are unlocked throughout the game, and one can be used at a time to either help, or in rare cases, hinder you. These are things like a parachute you can use to glide, a magnet to draw coins, a grappling hook, and more. To be honest, I was disappointed when these were announced, as I didn't like the idea of RPG-like elements in a Mario platformer, but the badge system is actually quite simple and intuitive. Ones like the glide are very useful, making it harder to slip up, and ones like invisibility are good for suckers for punishment like me, to add a brutal challenge to each level. Like the addition of characters Yoshi and Nabbit, badges accommodate players of all skill levels while spicing up the Mario formula. Most badges get their own self-contained challenge level, which serve as both a tutorial on how to use them as well as giving you a platforming challenge that focuses on them. Unfortunately, not all of them are useful and fun to use. Ones like the grappling hook don't really have much use outside of its own challenge level, and is not really needed at any other point in the game. Very rarely does a badge have a specific use in a main level, meaning most of the badges will never get used. You'll tend to gravitate towards your favorite ones like the parachute, but most of them will remain untouched. Still, it's good to see experimentation like this in the Mario series, and I'm sure we'll see the badge system iterated on and improved upon over the coming years. And it can't be a Mario game without power-ups. The Fire Flower is back and remains the single most useful power-up in Mario, always a welcome return. The new elephant power-up is by far the best one, turning our characters into cursed elephants. Elephant Peach is particularly traumatizing. Upon transformation, they exclaim, "Wowie zowie! Wowie zowie!" Whichever dev team member came up with that deserves a raise, as you'll find yourself exclaiming it in your daily life. The elephant essentially gives Mario a melee weapon in its trunk, something he's never had before. But it's a staple in more modern 2D platforming games like Hollow Knight or Metroid Dread. Could Nintendo have been influenced by non-Japanese made platformers? That's an interesting thought. Anyway, smacking enemies away with your trunk is one of the most satisfying parts of Wonder. Unfortunately, the new bubble and drill power-ups fare far less well. The bubble looks weak, and it is. While bubbles travel through walls and can be jumped on, there are very few opportunities to take advantage of these features. The drill can be used to burrow in walls or ceilings, but outside of levels that necessitate this power, it has no value at all. And it's not the first time we've seen a drill Mario either, so it just did not excite me at all. There are only 4 power-ups in the game, and that was a bit disappointing. Granted, the focus is on the new badge system, but I'm old school, so I wanted to see more returning power-ups like the Ice Flower or Boomerang, and I would have liked to have seen a greater variety of useful new ones. And then there's the game's selling point, the Wonder Flower. This is not a power-up, but grabbing the Wonder Flower transforms the stage in an unexpected way. These play out like a hallucinogenic sugar rush, turning Mario on its head and showcasing the true creative power of the development team. Warp pipes might start wiggling like worms, Mario might turn into a spiked ball, you might be thrown into zero gravity, and more. All levels have one, and it's always fun seeing what will happen, not knowing what surprise you're in for. The marketing made it seem like each level had a unique Wonder Flower concept, but in reality it's not the case. Some of the concepts are repeated, so you can't help but feel let down. It's exciting when you're turned into a blob of goo the first time, but by the third time it wears thin, and some Wonder Flowers are more interesting than others. The best ones are when the game becomes musical, with singing enemies and platforming that requires keeping to the rhythm. There are a few lame ones, like one that just slows down time or speeds it up, or another that just requires you to collect tokens in a closed-off area. While Wonder Flowers are a showcase for creativity, they're not necessarily a game-changing mechanic we were led to believe. They're essentially just gateways for a closed-off minigame challenge, something that's been done in dozens of platformers before, like Donkey Kong Country. And aesthetically, they're quite similar to the super power-up seen in Kirby's Return to Dreamland, a platformer that was re-released this very year. Fun to see, fun to play, but ultimately not that groundbreaking. And speaking of being underwhelmed, there's boss battles, or lack thereof. While the final boss, which I won't spoil, is an absolute treat, and is one of 2D Mario's best, tying together a variety of new gameplay mechanics with dazzling spectacle. But before that, there are a grand total of 3 bosses, and all bosses are variations on the same formula. They're so anticlimactic, lack variety, and are few and far between. Some of the worlds don't even end in a boss fight, making me feel like I'd been ripped off, as the Royal Seed or rare collectible is just gifted to you after having completed enough levels. I can't understand why bosses were neglected in this game. Considering new mechanics and the craziness of the Wonder Flower, why didn't Nintendo deliver exciting new boss battles that challenge the player while showcasing what makes Wonder so fun to to play. While previous bosses Boom Boom, Pom Pom, and the Koopalings are nowhere to be found here and are a bit stale and overused at this point, I never thought I'd find myself longing for their return. Wonderflowers could have added a new twist, breathing new life into them, and it feels like a missed opportunity. But the biggest missed opportunity of all is the lack of original bosses, something that most 2D platformers come up with each time. This is by far Wonder's most disappointing aspect, and makes it feel incomplete compared to previous games in the series. The recent Sonic Superstars had a whole host of creative new bosses, and it's disappointing to see Mario outdone by Sonic in this aspect. Overall, the gameplay is nicely balanced, as we'd expect from gaming's most iconic character. While I was worried at the beginning that it would be too easy, as the early levels are painfully easy and short, it's ultimately not the case. Difficulty does ramp up, and some of the 5-star difficulty levels will have you screaming and throwing the controller in frustration, which is the highest badge of honor I can give a 2D platformer. But it doesn't make you want to give up, and you'll just keep playing it until you get it. Once again, extra lives are useless here, as you'll never run out, and feel more like an obligation to legacy rather than part of the challenge. Thankfully, dying doesn't kick you back to the map screen like in previous games, meaning it's faster and more motivating to keep trying. It also makes the game harder to tear yourself away from, and stands as one of Mario's most addictive adventures to date. While I didn't have the chance to play local multiplayer because I'm an overgrown man-child whose friends lead busy lives with more important things to do than play Mario, it looks like a lot of fun, especially being able to carry your friends as Yoshi. But I did play the online mode, and I thought it was wholly unnecessary garbage. Seeing other players' ghosts in real time is distracting and annoying, and while they might help you find hidden items, for me that just ruins the fun of finding them yourself. You can also leave standees as revival points for other players, but to me they just clutter the beautiful stages with unsightly trash. If this mode appeals to you, then go for it. For me, it's an extra thing I don't need. Good that it's included, but after playing around with it for 5 minutes, I'll never touch it again, and I really can't understand why anyone would enjoy it. On a technical note, this game looks pretty as hell on the Switch. Colors are more vibrant and resplendent than ever before, almost burning my eyeballs at how saturated and beautiful the world is to look at. Perhaps I'm getting old, but at times it felt like a bit too much for me, especially with all the crazy stuff going on. But it truly is a sight to behold, a real step up from the tired aesthetics of New Super Mario Bros. It runs at a consistent frame rate, and aside from a few lower quality backgrounds here and there, it is one of the best looking 2D platformers ever made. The sound design also sets a new standard for Mario, being the best sounding Mario yet. All characters have newly recorded voice lines, being louder and more expressive than ever before. Although one of the biggest changes to Mario and Luigi is their new voice actor Kevin Afghani, who seamlessly takes over the role from the iconic Charles Martinet. He doesn't make the character his own, but completely carries on the legacy of voice work from his predecessor. He fills big shoes, and I wish him the best in the role. The most disappointing part of the casting is the way Nintendo handled the transition from Martinet to Afghani. After Wonder's first trailer was revealed, fans and YouTubers had speculated that his voice had changed, and only months later did confirmation come that Martinet was retiring. Then, Nintendo refused to announce the voice actor until the game's release, with the surprise having been spoiled by nerds who data-mined an in-store demo of the game. A passing of the torch video between Martinet and Afghani would have been a classy move on Nintendo's part, but their failure to do so is a stain on Wonder, despite it not being part of the game itself. Anyway, new to Mario is the addition of talking flowers, a contentious issue among the fanbase. They'll commentate the action or occasionally provide hints, and while a lot of gamers find them annoying, the opposite is true for me. There is an option to turn them off, but honestly I think you have to be a pretty joyless person to do that. They're cute and are another way Wonder's world feels so refreshing and full of life. And finally, the music and sound effects. This game is full of infectious new songs, and music shines best when rhythm is incorporated into the gameplay itself. Some Wonder flowers cause characters to break out into song, which is as hilarious as it is cute. Occasionally, some classic tunes are heard, but the composers don't lean on them too much, meaning it's not using nostalgia as a musical crutch. There's also new sound effects which sound crisper than ever before, and all audio elements combine to create the best sound design in Mario yet. Playing this game with headphones on is a treat, as Mario has never sounded better. To conclude, Super Mario Bros. Wonder is the best 2D Mario since the 1990s, and stands as a mandatory gaming experience for all Switch users. While it doesn't completely reinvent the wheel like we all expected, it iterates upon what was established in New Super Mario Bros. In a creative and exciting way. As someone who loves New Super Mario Bros. And has played all 4 of them, I really don't like all this retroactive hatred gamers suddenly have for the series in the wake of Mario Wonder, especially as the two are really not that different after all. The DNA of New Super Mario Bros. Still here, and Wonder is very much a sequel to it. Still, it's a huge leap forward for the series, showcasing infinitely more creativity, innovation, and beauty than ever before. Disappointing bosses and hit-and-miss power-ups and badges hold it back from being a masterpiece, but considering considering everything on display here, the future of Mario is looking bright, and Wonder will forever go down as one of Mario's best games. So, have you played Mario Wonder? What did you think? What's your favourite 2D platformer? For me, Wonder still hasn't dethroned Tropical Freeze, which for me is the platinum standard of side-scrollers. Let me know yours down below. I'm actually curious, and so far, the few people who leave comments on this channel leave really nice, genuine, and interesting comments that I love interacting with, so I'd really love to get more. If you leave a comment, I'll reply to you. And for more game reviews, don't forget to subscribe. I'm also making videos about my life here in Japan on a separate channel, so if that interests you, don't forget to check that out too. So thanks for watching guys, and I'll see you next time where I'll be back with my review for Sonic Superstars. See you then!